What's up, everyone? This is Rikk, and you are again watching the Pumpkin Patch. Yes, this is strange. This is the second stream or video that I'm doing this week. I know it's a little out of character, a little bit too much of me than you probably want to see, but there is good reason for that. I was recently sent the album by one of my favorite horror punk bands. You guessed it, the Horrorscopes, their new album Hexes, which drops tomorrow. Fuck yeah. So I'm gonna do a little bit of a review for you, just like I have the last two albums. Yeah. So just to give you a little bit of some information before going into it. Hexes is an album of 12 tracks. Technically, the 12th track, I believe, is a secret track because it is an old, it's like a track from their first album, Batkin, that they threw on at the end. As before, in their previous album, Beware of the Moon, sorry, brain fart. Beware of the Moon was their last album. This kind of takes it in a similar direction, where it's horror punk meets post-hardcore meets metal. I know post-hardcore is a little umbrella that allows for some of those things to mix, but this goes a little bit beyond just what I would consider like traditional post-hardcore stylings. Like the last album, this one opens up with more of an 80s horror movie style intro called Coven, very heavy in the synths, and then it has these really cool dun dun like guitar riffs that come in throughout, and there's like a tonal shift in some of the riffs that are played while it's going through. That leads directly into the second song, The Witch, not spelled with a W, spelled with two V's, because we're cult here. Just like the movie, Witch with V's. They actually promoted this one as the second single off of this album on their Instagram. This one has their first feature actually from Creepy Rogue, which is a cool juxtaposition where they're doing a duet together. As most of their stuff, it's fast, woe-laden, a little bit heavier vocals in the yells. Marco tends to do in the past albums a little bit more traditional, like Davey Havoc style yells, hardcore yells, and in this album there are a lot more fry vocal pieces that are happening in the tracks. Like I said, there's a cool singing duet, very melodic, very dynamic. There's a cool transition into the second verse, this sort of like dun dun part that's just really dynamic into it. On this one's cool because there's like this bridge with some cool bell work. I mean, I'm a drummer, so those are the things that I pay attention to, and I really appreciate that it goes from the bell pattern to the same pattern on the feet. Really thought that was cool. Then there's like another like woe laden duet, and then there's a fucking breakdown. And in case this wasn't like post-hardcore metalcore enough, there is a second breakdown, much heavier than the first, after that. They were definitely leaning into the post-hardcore metalcore style that I appreciate very much from my high school days. Third track, Gates of Hell. It goes, opens up with a riff, goes back into some fast punk. It's a woe bridge. I know I'm speeding through this, but it's a lot to cover. Have some more melodic singing to break up the yells within the verse. What I appreciate about what Horoscopes does is, on certain verses, there'll be, again, a lot more hardcore yelling. And then Marco will come in with like actual singing, and sometimes it'll be, more melodic. Sometimes it'll have a little bit of a spookier, sort of like quieter tone to it, or just different dynamics going through that. And I really appreciate that. And this one definitely has those pieces going through. I wrote on here, there was almost a noise, like the music noise portion towards the end of it, which I thought was really interesting. Like the Fry vocals turn into something that are a lot more inaudible, which is really cool. Definitely a different thing, different dynamic that they're trying out. Don't Trust in Vampires, fast punk drums. There's a little bit prettier guitar on this one in the intro compared to other songs. This one has like some haze versus some woes, which I appreciate. You got to break up the things that you normally do, right? Make it a little bit more interesting. This one has there's like a breakdown. It's a little bit more melodic with yells behind it. Which I appreciate. I like I said, I like post-hardcore. I like the what I've heard with people call it like pretty chords with breakdowns. I feel like this kind of fits that, and it's cool because the yelling behind it kind of makes that juxtaposition really stand out. There's a really strange sort of what I put pretty transition in the middle. Kind of reminds me of AFI, just this sort of, as if everything else that they have done doesn't already remind me of AFI, but there's a piece that sort of like, it kind of comes out of nowhere, to be honest, but definitely makes it, again, stand out, really interesting. There's a quiet down section on this one, and then there's a woe section, and at the end it's, Don't Trust in Vampires, yelled until the end, which is really cool. You know me, I'm all about those anthemic dynamic pieces, right? The next song is called 13, presumably about the 13 ghosts. This one's heavy right away. This one doesn't hold any punches. This one features Lucia Beast, which is in Marco's other band. Marco and the Drummers' other band. The Beast Remade, I believe is what they're called. Her vocals, so it's interesting because most bands that have like male-female vocals in metal do what's like that Beauty and the Beast vocal styling, but they do not. Well, they don't do it in the traditional sense, at least. Marco's doing a little bit more of the yelling vocals, which I guess in this case is the Beauty, and Lucia is doing like some demonic shit, right? It's wild. Definitely really interesting. Like I said, he sticks to the harsh yells, which is again the yells but with like kind of the fry at the end. There's a slow down part that is really cool. This is probably my favorite part of the song. It slows down, makes it atmospheric, and is punctuated by a heavy blast beat section, which is pretty cool. And then there's some singing towards the end. Track 6, Transylvanian Dusk. Again, this one's has that dynamic metalcore piece in the beginning where it's sort of this like rev up, sort of. It sounds like it's a revved reverse, like a cymbal rev. I know it's not, but that's what it reminded me of initially. Into like an offbeat drum pattern, which I think is really cool. I gotta give mad props to their drummer for throwing in a lot of that really interesting stuff in punk music. Again, I wrote super dynamic into Marco Woes. Okay, I remember now. There's some band backup vocals I don't think Marco's in, and then it goes in his vocals. I thought that was cool. Definitely, again, kind of breaks up. If you haven't listened to Horoscopes, most of their songs are pretty long. They're like 3 to 4 minutes long, and there's a lot going on. And I think with so much going on, without those dynamic punctuated parts, it would be really hard to really care what's happening. But they definitely have the ability to transition into things really well. Track 7 is The Light of the Lantern. I thought this was really cool. This one has like a Danny Elfman sort of la 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 section with some vibraphones in it. I really appreciated that piece. And from that, again, sort of Danny Elfman thing, it goes into like a Cradle of Filth style vocal piece in the breakdown, which is really interesting compared, put together. My favorite track on this album is called Scissorhands. This one is heavy, but it has the pretty sounds. This one I think is probably their most in line with post-hardcore, at least the way that I remember it. Kind of reminds me of a band called Lower Definition, which is some hometown heroes for me. And there's even a part, which is really cool. Not exactly like Davey Havoc, but close enough for super fan over here to be like, hey, I get you. This one's a banger. This one's definitely the best song on the album, in my opinion. A lot of really cool dynamic pieces through it. Makes it really... this one, I feel like, could be the next single. Track 9, A Match Made in Hell. Another sort of post-hardcore melodic one. With some heavy blast beats and lyrics like I hate to love you and I love to hate you. Just very angsty, kind of again into that style. Very well placed. Like I said, blast beats during the woes of all places, right? Like that's very interesting, and I appreciate the tastefulness of what they've done in this one as well. Track 10 was the first single, Villainy. I feel like this one's a really good representation of the whole album. It maintains the same horror punk vibe that they've been doing for the last 2 albums, but it takes it into the direction where you can tell they're going a little heavier, right? And this one has a Latin section, whatever you want to call it, right? Where it does it with like an instrumental with no vocals, then it comes in heavier with vocals, and it goes back to just instrumental. It's just very groovy and definitely a fun song. And again, a really good first single for the album. Track 11 is called Endlessly. This one's my second favorite song. This one's more of the ballad. It reminds me of Helena by My Chemical Romance. It like has a mix of layered vocals, and there's like a nice bridge to it to build up the emotions, and it ends with piano. Just real pretty stuff, really appreciate when bands do that, when they kind of end off on a nice potentially like pretty note to kind of have like this dynamic end, which I will say is the reason why I'm going to consider this the last song on the album, and hope that Our Halloween, which is a fucking banger, is not considered the last song on the album, because this one sort of is the outlier. This one sounds, obviously it was written during their Batkin era, and it sounds like it was written during their Batkin era, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think to position that at the very end of the album makes it come off kind of strange, right? It doesn't fit the full vibe that they're doing throughout the rest of the album. Overall, fucking great album. My thoughts on it as a whole is I really appreciate the post-hardcore stuff that they're putting into it. I'm a little worried, not to be a sour sport or anything, but a little worried that they are going to become a metal band. I will still support Horrorscopes. Marco, you're my boy. I'm going to support you guys no matter what, because I love your sound. But I hope you guys don't go full metal. I'm not as into metal anymore as I was when I was younger. And some of this stuff is getting like real metal territory. But I'm sure you'll keep it interesting if that were to happen. And again, I might just be bitching for nothing, right? Overall, I do think this is a great album. It's going to be a good mix into your spooky Halloween playlists. If you have an ear for AFI influenced fucking post-hardcore, metalcore, horror punk, right? Whatever the fuck that means. Yeah, I think that's all I got for you guys. I really do appreciate you watching. I hope you have a great and safe Halloween. And you know who it is. This has been Rick Retreat, and you have been watching The Pumpkin Patch.